So next up, we keep switching between presentations from banks and presentations from service providers. So it's back to the banks. The orange one, ING, Merijin Olsthoorn, and all the exciting stuff you guys are doing with AI.
Thank you, Morten and Elena. Thanks for having me. And it's really nice to be here and share some of our learnings and progress in applying generative AI in the space of FEC. That's also a link to what Tom said earlier. That's definitely one of the domains that we are looking at to apply this technology. I've been involved in innovation in wholesale bank financial crime prevention for the last 6 years. I've been part of Corp ID and Blacksmith, which have been both startup ventures from inside ING, and we spun them off successfully, and then I was asked to mobilize a GenAI project. I'm very fortunate to be working with an amazing project team on this new work. And yeah, generative AI, it's amazing technology to work with. It is a lot of fun, and it has a lot of opportunities. And also from a personal perspective, I'm not an AI guru, I'm not a data scientist. I really have a pragmatic view on how we can use this and really have the users at the first place. And we need to have a very human-centric view on how to apply it. So this is also what I will take you through in this talk today, focusing a lot on the human element of working with GenAI. But first, a little personal perspective. I started my career in digital innovation outside of the banking space, and then when moving to banking, at first I got a bit frustrated because of the pace. It is a lot slower. But I learned recently, my lifelong passion is sailing. In 2022, I took my family sailing across the Pacific, and if you take your own family offshore, you really start to focus on risk and risk management, assessing risk, implementing controls, implementing procedures, doing system checks, doing all these things to keep your adventure safe. And that is a nice analogy, I think, to doing innovation in banking, and also echoing what Luc just mentioned. If you are applying generative AI in the banking domain, you need to install a lot of guardrails to make that a safe journey and make that a safe adventure. So by seeing that analogy, it's much easier to accept that and to embrace that as part of the journey to keep it safe. Now I will take you through a use case that is focused on wholesale bank financial crime prevention, so wholesale bank FCP. So this is really our business segment of the large international corporates and financial institutions. So in terms of financial crime prevention, also the most complex segment where we have a lot of comprehensive policies to follow. And for this segment, financial crime prevention is still largely a manual process. And a lot of time spent in that process is on collecting all the data and evidence that we need to satisfy all the policy requirements. And if you look at data and evidence gathering, yes, there are data points we can gather from connected and trusted sources that come in from APIs. And there's also answers that we get from documents that are well structured and easy to process. But there's actually still a lot of answers that are gathered manually in desk research by analysts, just by processing large and unstructured documents, such as company annual reports. And we started our project for data extraction with these most complex type of reports to see if we can take on the difficult stuff, then it's easy to scale up to the more easy type of document. If you go next, let's have a look at that use case in detail. So imagine you're looking at a client and you try to understand what is the geographical presence of this client. Where are they doing their business? And so you open the report, and in fact what a lot of the analysts are doing is simply Control F. They open the PDF and they do Control F. And they might look for a search term like this and get 150 hits, and then they need to review these to find the right information. So this is a part of the work that's actually it's not time well spent. It's not the fun part of the job. We'd rather have them focus on actually looking at the insights that are behind the information that you gather, and which are about what do these insights mean for the risk profile of the client we're looking at. So this is a part of the financial crime prevention work that we're quite happy to support them with automation. So what are the benefits that we can achieve with the data extraction use case for Wholesale Bank FCP? A lot of it is in the user experience, as I just mentioned, actually helping the analyst to get rid of the repetitive and tedious tasks and help them to actually shift their focus on decision making. And yes, there's also an attractive time saving to be had by automating this type of tasks. And then finally, it's about structuring the data. So when we are processing unstructured documents and turning the answers into structured data, we are actually laying the foundations for the future way of working. We want to move to eventually what we call perpetual KYC, and to do that, a big transformation to digitalize the process is happening. And what this needs is structured data, so that you have the data on your clients available in a way that you can reuse it. So if we use technology for the extraction of the data, we are actually enabling that change. Now, what does it mean actually to be working with GenAI? And I think the previous speaker gave a lot of examples of things that can go wrong, because we know that generative AI is quite a powerful technology. The large language models are very powerful, and we know this from popular examples. We know this from trying it ourselves. It's also a lot of fun to use this technology, because it's not like a classic tech that is logically and deterministic, but it's quite creative, so it can perform in unexpected ways. So to make that do what you want it to do feels a little bit like taming the dragon. So how do we tame that dragon? This is a look at the data extraction solution that we have built. And previously people asked, how far are you now today with applying GenAI as a bank? So this is not an experiment, not a proof of concept, but it's live in production. And well, you see the data extraction flow. There's input, there's throughput, there's output. And there's a couple of elements that we apply to make it safe. Thank you. So first of all, it's very important to control the context of the extraction. So you provide a document that you really want the answers to come from, and there is also a tag to make sure that we actually do the extraction from specific parts of the documents that are relevant to the question. Then the question asked is not an open question that is prompted straight away, but this is something that is configured to make sure that we exactly ask the questions based on the policy. So we are also in that way standardizing the extraction, not anymore having a personal style of approach of the person that's doing it, but really making sure that we get exactly what we need to comply with the policy. So that is a very important part, to control the context. Then secondly, what is nice about generative AI and the tooling around it, you can make it do its own quality control. So you can basically make it check its own work. So it can give an answer, and then it can provide a score on how accurate that answer might be. It can measure the reliability, it can give a reasoning, it can look back for a specific quote. Then you can ask, okay, which page did you find that quote on? So lots of these checks you can do to build more safety around the accuracy of the answer. And then finally there's the human element, very important. Certainly today we have a human in the loop principle. So the colleague involved is verifying the answer, if it is correct, and if it applies to the criteria, and that person is also taking the decision to actually trust that answer and use it for the CDD case. So looking at the results, this is actually a screenshot of the application that analysts use to verify the answer. And what you see, we go back to this question of what is the geographical presence of the target entity. Well, in this demo example, we use ING itself. So we have on the top left the AI generated answer, which gives the country presence. Then on the bottom left, we have the reasoning behind it. So why would you trust that answer? And on the right hand side, you see the specific page where the answer was retrieved from. And you can see in the yellow bit, this is also already highlighted and annotated. So it's not just about finding the answer, but also about evidencing it. And when using this in production, we get very, very promising results. What is I think especially impressive is the accuracy of the model itself. And so in about 90% of cases, the answer that is generated by AI is the same as an analyst would do manually. And then for the remaining 10%, it doesn't mean that the AI tool gave a wrong answer. That actually happens in a really small percentage. But it might be that AI found an answer and the human did not, or vice versa. So those are categories we can further improve. And this is a continuous journey to work together with analysts to make the answers better. But this is actually a very good already, and we're super confident to get that to a much higher level. What is a key focus area is actually to support with the adoption. So there are users that find it relatively easy to adopt this technology. Can you go back one? Yeah, because this image shows a little bit, I think, the typical behavior of a CDD analyst. So if you think about it in terms of a persona, these people are very detail focused. They typically might be risk averse. The typical behavior is check, check, double check. So if you present such a group of users with AI generated answers, you need to give them support to adopt it. And there is a group of users that are quite eager to adopt it, and they trust it, and they immediately get a substantial time saving. There is also a group of users that are driven by their critical eye and tend to do so many double checks that it's hard for them to save time by using the tool. So this is what we are focusing on to make that easier. And these are some of the principles, the trust principles that we learned about when thinking what do people need to be able to trust this kind of outputs. And these are the four, let's say, elements of trust that we figured out and that we are now focusing on with further improving the tool. So, first of all, they need transparency. It needs to be very clear what are the origins of the answer. And this is also, I think, what you saw in the screenshot. Then they need control. And we already talked about the human is in control of deciding what we do with the answer. This also means it must be very easy to change or edit the answer as you see fit as as the agent. Then, in terms of reuse, sometimes there's one bit of evidence that you can use for multiple questions. Then you also want to see that for the different contexts and switching back and forth, you actually refer to this same central piece of evidence in a logical way. And this is also something that supports the trust. And finally, the validation, of course, for CDD, and the sources, the documents that you use have to be trusted, which means they need to have certain characteristics in terms of where did we get them from, how old are they, to make sure that the answers are valid. And all these things should be very, let's say, accessible for the user to support that trust process. So that's the journey where we are now with data extraction. And I think interesting to end with, where do we go from here? So this is a case that's running in production and that we are optimizing and further scaling. And one of the things I'd like to get back to here is, again, the human element. And how do people work together with AI, and how do we give that a place in the organization? And how we see that is that AI can play a role to actually be a kind of a medium between the more experienced and senior analysts and the more junior ones that are maybe just joining, to actually convey the knowledge and experience to make sure that everyone works easier and faster at a higher pace. So maybe part of the analysts take a role to support with configuring the AI tooling, and that is a way for them to, let's say, input their knowledge and experience into the system. And other users get those systems at hand to get up to speed very quickly. And we can do that in a couple of different use cases. And I think you will recognize some of the themes that have also been presented by others today. So first of all, it's often labeled as the co-pilot, but maybe that's a bit hijacked now by Microsoft. So we look at it as the analyst assist, whereby throughout your user journey of doing the CDD process, you get support from a kind of virtual mentor that helps you determine what is the next thing you should do based on where you are in the process, and what are the relevant parts of the policy and guidance that you should review in the particular case that you're doing. And then if you look at the process in the 3 steps, so this is the classic view on financial crime prevention process for wholesale bank clients. We see these 3 big steps. That is not radically changing by introducing AI. AI should take a supporting and enabling role here. It can support us in doing this better. It can support us in the digital transformation. But we're still having this process whereby we start with desk research, try to answer as much as we can and extracting data as good as we can before actually bothering the client. And that's what happens in step 2. We don't like to do that. The clients don't like to be asked the same question over and over again. So this is really what we try to avoid as much as possible. And this is also where technology comes in. Conversation support could play a role there for sure. And then, in the case that clients do send back documents with additional answers, they can also be extracted. And in the final part, the risk assessment, it's more about summarizing all the findings and providing the rationale for the actual risk decision. This is something we are working on in the retail segment, where there's obviously a higher degree of standardization, and something we're following from Wholesale Bank with a keen eye to implement that as well. So, yeah, what I'd like to conclude with is, I think there's a really interesting future for AI to support the digital transformation in CDD, and to play a complementary role to the colleagues that are active in that field, and digitalization in financial crime prevention is a journey we are on. The problem is not solved yet. We will definitely need this technology as part of the journey to solve it, and yeah, that's very interesting to be part of. Thank you.